two questions, or how educational institutions can also play a role. Over to you. Do you have a mic, Peter? No. Yeah, there we go. Oh.
Yeah. All right. So thank you very much, and a big thank you to the World Bank for inviting us to be part of this conversation. The MasterCard Foundation is really about human capital development. We are a very young foundation, subject to purposes. One is about education and skilling for young people, and the other one is financial inclusion for the poor. But when you take it together, it's really about human capital development. So the subject of this conversation is very much in the right and center of what we do. And since 5 years, we made a decision to focus primarily on Africa, young people in Africa. And it's about enabling young people not only to access education and skilling, but it is about taking them all the way and also to access dignified and fulfilling work. And we set a target of 30 million young people in dignified and fulfilling work. So right now we are working on this strategy to try and deliver that. Now, coming back to your question, really the disconnect that we are seeing between skilling or education and employment is driven by a number of things. The first one is just the numbers themselves. You know, the numbers, because of the success in education, the numbers of young people that are coming out of the school system are so many more than the opportunities available. And so even if we had the best education systems, there still wouldn't be enough opportunities for every young person to get into a dignified and fulfilling job. And that's why one of the things that we are prioritizing at the MasterCard Foundation is really empowering young people to create their own opportunities through entrepreneurship, but also accompanying them to grow beyond the startup level. That is one. The second one is information gap. What we are finding in a number of countries where we work is that sometimes opportunities are available and there are talented young people, but the link between the employer knowing where the talent is, and the talented young person knowing where employment is, especially for young people who come from poor families, who don't have the networks, who don't have fathers and mothers like those of us sitting here. They do not have those networks to enable them to know. And so bridging that information gap, linking young people, active programs to link young people to opportunities are important. In the MasterCard Foundation, we are working on that through internship support as one of them, but also apprenticeships and similar programs. We work with partners across the continent to connect young people to opportunities using various methods. The third one is really something around what has been mentioned here by colleagues. The two ministers mentioned them, the fact that we need to constantly evolve our education systems to match the changing needs in the labor market. I think this is something that countries are managing fairly well, I must say, and this is an area that really we just need to continue, especially because today the evolution of knowledge and technology is so much more rapid that it's not possible to wait 10 years, 15 years before you have a look at the curriculum. It's a continuous process, and I'm glad to see various countries in this process of transforming their education systems. Now, let me also make one point. You know, there is a stock and flow issue here. The stock issue, meaning the young people who have already finished school and they're out there looking. And there, the task is more about enabling them to make that last hop into employment, or either self-employment or wage employment. And there are a number of things that we've seen that work quite well, which is kind of like the finishing schools model that India used some time back. Taking young people who have finished university or TVETs and then enabling them to up their skills, but in a targeted manner so that when they leave, they are going to transition successfully. We've been working with the Africa Leadership Group through their new program, they call it ALX, where they take young people who have finished university degrees, give them anywhere from 6 to 12 months of upskilling, but working very closely with employers, and then connect them to either to get into wage employment or entrepreneurship. And so far, about 500,000 people have benefited from that, and 80,000 of them have transitioned successfully into work, and the other 500, some are still in the process. But the point is, short, sharp, targeted programs to take graduates who have completed schools and transition them into work. Now, the other part of the story is the flow, that looking at our education systems and doing things that can really help to get it right, meaning to get young people completing and transitioning successfully. And the minister talked about some of this, which is about career guidance and counseling. It's about internships, about entrepreneurship training. It's about, I'm going to mention one thing here, leadership development. It's so important because of this rapid evolution of knowledge and expertise and technology. It's so important that people learn to become self-paced learners. And for that to happen, they need that discipline of learning, that's one, and leading self, leading others. Certainly, they need to be digitally literate as they leave the institution so that they can benefit from the opportunities which are out there. So things that we can do while they're in school so that they're better ready. And at the Mastercard Foundation, we have the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program, which is really aiming to create this new generation of young people who are transformative over time. And these are some of the things that we are embedding into the program, working with the institutions where these young people go, so that over time they can emerge successfully. And we are seeing that.
Shift to somebody who's an example of what you've talked about, creating jobs for themselves and creating jobs for others. And Samrawit, if you could tell us a bit about your experience and how the private sector is approaching this issue of skilled. And perhaps you could start by how many people have been employed by your business.
Thank you, Sam, for the question. So when we start RIDE, by the way, RIDE is the first transport technology for Ethiopia, which is the capital city of Africa. Language to their level. We have to see how they